This is Managing Creative Studios. I'm your host, Susan Mann, and in this episode, we're going to talk to motion designer Fraser Munro, also known to many as the Character Ninja. We chat about life after studio work, managing stress, staying creative, and running a one-person animation business. From the tools and the workflow to finding the simple joy and just making things look cool. Fraser keeps it honest, practical, and inspiring, and also teaches us a little bit about the Motion Designers Guild of Aotearoa, which I've just signed up to, so I'm really excited to talk to you about it. Welcome to Managing Creative Studios, Fraser.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Flew up all the way just for you.
I know. You've flown up just for the weekend. So yeah, I'm very excited that you managed to take some time to come in.
Yep.
So on your website, Fraser, you've got that you are a latchkey kid who watched a lot of cartoons when you were a kid.
Yes.
Yeah? So do you think that that's sort of how you managed to get into animation, or the reason for it?
I think it's kind of the driving force behind it.
Yeah.
There's something about watching cartoons that just clicked with me.
Yeah.
Partly that was, when you're a single parent family and mum's at work and you get home from school by yourself, you spend a lot of time left to your own devices. So
Yeah.
cartoons kind of were a natural thing for a kid to end up doing.
Yeah.
But no, I really loved it, and I just wanted to always watch more cartoons. And so that's one day I'd left school, I wasn't doing much, and a family member mentioned freelance animation school, their pencil and paper training course, and got involved with that. And
Freelance Animation School.
Yeah.
Produced a lot of animators in New Zealand.
Yes, it's something I never knew I was good at, but
Yeah.
I came into the first year in the middle of the year and then aced the exam at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like top student for the year,
Nice.
100%, which was completely a surprise for me. So
Yeah.
and it's been that way. It's been that sort of road ever since.
And are you still watching cartoons, or
Not as
grown
much.
out of those?
There are some I watch because they have a standout aspect.
Yeah.
I still like a lot of the classic stuff, but things like Scavenger's Reign and all those kind of newer ones where they're not just, there's anime which just gets pumped out over and over and over again, and that's kind of, sure, I'll watch it. But it's some of the something that's got something special aesthetically or story-wise, that's what I'll make time to watch these days.
Yeah. And what was your favourite when you were little?
Would have been probably Goofy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
nice.
something about, I always remember the classic one where there was a combination of him as someone who walked and someone who drove. And he was like this Jekyll and Hyde psychopathic thing going on. And I really liked it for some reason.
Yeah. That's really cool. And so what was your first industry job after Freelance Animation School?
I did do an industry placement, and that didn't work out, partly because I think I was far too young. I'd gotten into an industry that requires a lot of self-discipline and a lot of self-drive, and I just didn't have it at that age.
Yeah.
And also, I think part of that was also they put me into, when you're new in a hand-drawn kind of pipeline, you get put on to cleanup, and I was never good at cleanup.
Yeah.
So that it just didn't work out.
Yeah. That's funny. I didn't know you did hand-drawn because we met and you were doing, what were you doing then? Flash? Or,
yeah. Back when it was called Flash, before it became called Animator or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I didn't know you were traditionally trained, but... Yeah.
No, well, that was kind of how I ended up at Flux, is that I'd sort of taken a side road. I'd done a postgraduate digital diploma, ended up doing like corporate training media, which was a way to pay the bills. It was all right.
Yeah.
And then that got made redundant from that, and I was doing some tutoring at NatCol, which is now UB. And then someone I was working with said, this place Flux has got some freelance stuff going. And I walked in the door and Brent saw me, and Brent used to work in the studio where I trained.
Yeah.
So I walked in the door, and he just went, it's you. It's a full-time job if you want it. And so that's how I ended up there for 13 years.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. And did you sort of find that you had any mentors along the way throughout your career journey?
One particular one, there was this guy, Anthony Pole, who was my tutor at animation training. He saw something in me, and he just kind of took me under his wing and became a really good friend, but also a very good mentor. Like he really, because that animation training, pencil and paper, like traditional animation is possibly one of the most hardest things I've ever learnt to do. There was a lot of times I thought I couldn't do it. There was a lot of times I nearly quit. And he was just one of those voices that kept telling me, no, you are good at this. Here's the bits you're missing, So he was very formative in my ability to kind of actually get through that initial phase of doubt and...
Yeah, it's important having someone that can encourage you.
Yeah.
Stick at it.
Yeah.
So we used to work together in Auckland, and then you left Auckland, and where did you move to?
So Horowhenua. I've got friends all the way up the coast from Wellington through to New Plymouth, and I've spent a lot of time in that area. And then my wife, Alana, she was offered a transfer to Palmerston North at some point.
Right.
This is when we were wanting to leave Auckland. We'd had enough of the big city. And so my response was, as long as you don't live there. And so we found Foxton Beach, which is somewhere I never thought I'd end up living, but it's one of those places where a lot of our friends, when we were leaving, were like, why are you going there? And then they all came to visit, and they were like, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you've been in animation for a pretty long time.
Yes, I stopped counting.
What was your transition like from going to a studio to being a freelancer?
It was quite a revelation. I'd gotten so used to the big city life and this, working in a studio with lots of people, and that kind of, it can be quite a high pressure environment, especially because there's, a studio, they've got to turn over so much content to make the finances work.
Yeah.
So there's quite often, you'll either have big projects which have got a whole lot of work to do and maybe not as much deadline as it needs.
Yeah.
Or you've got a lot of projects coming through, one after another, and that can create a lot of pressure, because there's a lot of people who, like if you're a business owner or a producer or someone like that, you can't really make the projects happen faster. You're relying upon other people.
Yeah.
And so that can lead to a situation where the pressure sort of filters down from the top. And, if there's financial or production pressures, then the directors start to feel it, and then that sort of gets passed down and down and down. And it took me a long time to realise that I've always known I was quite introverted, but I've realised that I'm one of those kind of introverts that too many people or too big a social setting actually wears me out really quickly.
Yeah.
And so what was happening is I was doing the classic work hard, play hard, and just being incredibly stressed all the time.
Yeah.
I got very, very stressed at times. Unpleasantly stressed, you might say.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't to the point where I got really sick. I ended up thinking I had prostate cancer, and actually turned out I had type 2 diabetes, which was kind of a relief, because you can do something about that. But it wasn't until I was in Foxton Beach, freelancing from home, and about 2 years after I'd started that, I was just walking across the yard one day, and I just went, I don't have to be stressed constantly. It just dawned on me, this is... the reason I moved there was to not be so stressed out and to not be so flat out all the time.
And how do you manage that stress?
By not living in a city.
Helps a lot.
Yeah, but changing how I work and where I work was a huge factor in managing that stress, because I'm in a much smaller environment with much less people. I work from home all the time. It's really just me and the dog and Alana.
Yeah.
So, and an interesting inverse thing in that, what I was finding is when I was living in the city and in a big studio, I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't socialise in the same ways, because as soon as I got home, I just want to be like, can everyone just go away for a little bit? But now that I live somewhere where there's not as many people and things are a bit quieter, if someone says, hey, let's go and do this thing, I'm like, yeah, great.
You've got the energy for it. Yeah, I totally understand that. I'm a real introvert myself, so I get the being with people all day, every day. You just go home and you want to be by yourself. And it's the opposite, right? When you're working by yourself, I'm
but
sure.
I've also found for the work I do as well, when I'm working, like in a big studio environment, there's a lot of interruption, a lot of distraction. And even if it's not directly distracting you, it can be people walking past talking to the person next to you, or just noises or whatever.
Yeah.
So working from home by myself, I'm much more able to just sit down and focus on one particular task at a time, and that really helps with the stress, I think.
Yeah, Oh, that's interesting. And do you feel that the lifestyle changes that you've made have impacted you, your creativity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of it is, it's sort of two-pronged, sort of a two double-edged sword. Not even a double-edged sword. It's a two-sided sort of coin. Part of it is working by myself. There is no one to do anything else for me. You know, when you work in a big studio, if there's something you're not so good at because you're surrounded by people who are really good at lots of things, it's easy to kind of go, could you just help me with this?
Yeah.
And then you never actually master that skill because there's always someone stepping in to do it for you.
Yeah, okay.
So when you work by yourself, you have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
And that's forced me to do it, which has actually made me far more confident. It's made me realise that there were things like illustration, drawing, because when you're behind a computer, you don't need to do those as much. And I'd forgotten that I am actually really good at them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was sort of forced to do it more myself because there's no one to do it for me that I realised, I sort of remembered that, I am actually good at this. So that's been a huge thing. But also I've taken my diabetes from when I was on medication and quite sick to I haven't used medication in 7 years now. The doctors took me off it completely because it's all diet and exercise controlled.
Yeah.
And what that's done is it's changed it's changed the way I see myself. Instead of being stressed out and feeling negative, partly because I had bad health. Because I'm much more physically capable, I feel much more mentally capable as well.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge factor. Changing my diet and exercise to the point where I don't need to take diabetes medication anymore. That's been a huge factor in just me being able to change how I think and process other problems.
Wow. Yeah. You don't really realise how much diet and exercise, your physical body, changes the way your everything mentally works.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in a student environment, you'd be 10, 12 hours a day sometimes, even more. And the number of times I'd be texting on the way home, working late, should I just get some drive-through? Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And it happened a lot.
Or eating the office snacks and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. We used to go to a chicken drive-through place that we jokingly called Death Chicken because it was we could eat it and we're like, this is really unhealthy, but it's kind of delicious.
Yeah.
And we sort of laugh now that we were actually quite accurate that it was Death Chicken because it was making us quite unwell.
Yeah. And you were talking a little bit there about personal responsibility almost when you don't have other people to do things for you or help you out. So what is your view on personal responsibility and working by yourself? Because it's true that when you do have a team, there's other people to blame when things go wrong, I was late with this because they didn't get me that file on time, or I'm in a bad mood because my manager's this or that, or, but you don't have anyone around you to blame for anything. So is there a lot of personal responsibility involved in being a freelancer?
Yes, I guess I liken it to, there's when I first started freelancing, and I think this is common for everyone, is you're still thinking of like an employee. So you think, okay, well, I'm doing this job, and then I'll move on to a different job. Yeah. And after a while, I realised you're not a freelance employee. You're running a business of one. And so, as an employee, you're not thinking about strategy. You're not thinking about marketing. You're not thinking about all these things. And when I realised that I have to run it as if I was running a business, just there are no other employees. Yeah. That's been a huge driver of responsibility because I need to think about how I market myself. I need to think about making sure I go to networking events and making sure I send emails out to clients on a regular basis so they know so they keep me at top of mind, all those kinds of things. Yeah. It's that knowing no one else is going to do it unless I get off my bum and do it myself. That's been a huge change of how I view responsibility. Yeah, there's a lot involved. Like even this podcast, the amount of social media and stuff that you have to do to promote yourself. And, you know, I noticed it with you as soon as you became a freelancer, you're all over LinkedIn, you're out there, you're present. It's a lot of work. Yeah, and even then I don't feel I do it as much as I should. Yeah. But also I know that would become a job in its own right. Yeah, there's no end to how much you could put yourself out there. Yeah. So we have thankfully gotten to a point where the freelance business is doing well enough that I've now been able to bring my wife Alana on. She does a lot of my admin and database management for a couple of days a week. So that's kind of freed up a lot of my time so now things like getting contacted by someone and then having to go and collect all the email addresses and put it into the database and all that data entry sort of stuff. Yeah. It's handled for me. So I can kind of go, that's great, just send a message off. Yeah. It'll get done at some point.
And how is it working with your partner?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah,
do you have to say that? Or?
No, I don't. That's completely honest. We've known each other since we were like 16 and 18. Aww. So we've always been really good friends. It just kind of happened one day where she turned around and went, you know what I'm doing, right? I was like, oh, yeah. But we've also worked together quite a few times. Like both when we're doing cafe work, we worked at the same cafe for years and years and years. Yeah. So working together isn't a problem for us. It's just something we've always been able to sort of do quite happily and easily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd be able to work with my husband, but yeah, I suppose you do it. You do it if you have to, but it's great that you guys can make that work. And do you have separate rooms, or are you actually working in the same office?
No, we don't. No.
Oh, that makes it better. Yeah,
because there'll be moments where I need quiet because I'm trying to hear what a character's saying to be able to do lip sync. Yeah. And there'll be moments where she needs quiet and I'm stressed out because I can't get the computer to do what I want. So I'm kind of... So...
And you dogs in the workplace. You're obviously pro dogs in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You got Tui. How old is Tui now?
He's 12 now. He's probably our biggest fan and our biggest critic at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. I'm a big fan of dogs in the workplace, even in studio settings. You used to bring Tui in when we worked in the studio together.
He was a puppy.
Yeah, I used to bring my dog in. I just think that having pets around in the office, as long as they're appropriate for the office, really make people feel happy.
Yeah, and as long as they're not causing trouble or enormously huge or anything.
Yes, I mean, my manager brings his little pug dog into work and, he's an angry little thing, but his face is so cute, he makes me happy. But yeah, he did knock a cable out the other day that caused quite a bit of chaos, but he's lucky he's cute.
Yeah. Well, that's one great thing about working from home is that the dog's always there, but the back door's open, so he wanders off into the yard and sits in the sun and does his own thing for a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about clients. What does a good client brief mean to you?
A lot. It's not just knowing the details of the project, and it's not just. There's two things. It lets you ask more. You don't want to spend the whole time asking question after question after question. Yeah. So a really good detailed brief, it means that the questions you do ask are very focused and about very specific things. Yeah. But it also tells you that client's thought about it and gone through the process of, trying to answer those there's always going to be a bunch of obvious questions. And so a brief that answers those already means they're already thinking about those questions before they arise. So it's kind of communicating to you as the artist that I'm hiring artist X. I know what I want. Yeah. I've thought about it properly. I've answered all these things that'll arise, so that when we get into production, there's less questions, we can get moving a lot faster. So a good, solid, well thought out brief does a lot of that. It's I guess a lot of it is also about it shows that you can trust them. The more you can trust someone, the more they trust you. It's a sort of reciprocal situation, and then it leads to a better project because there's not as much doubt. You're not sitting there working away going, is this the right thing? Yeah. Am I going to spend all day on this thing and be told I got it wrong?
Second guessing
but
what they
actually
want
I got it wrong because the details weren't in the brief, or I didn't ask the right questions.
Yes. Yeah. And is there a big difference, are you finding, in what clients are wanting now to what they might have been wanting 10 years ago?
Yes. I mean, it's always going to be. It always fluctuates and shifts and changes. Things come in and out of favour. A few years back, explainers were really big. I was doing a lot of explainers. That's just because that's just what people wanted. Now, especially with the rise of much shorter form content, TikTok, all these kinds of things, doing a 1 minute long explainer isn't so attractive. Yeah, it's for a company. They want to do one thing that they can cut up into maybe 10 different things and repurpose in different ways. So it's not so much I don't think it's so much the type of imagery or the type of characters or the styles have changed so much. It's more the formats and how the stories are structured.
Right.
Is really what's changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on your website you have New Zealand School Boards Association explainer video, which I really liked. I really liked the style of that.
Thanks. It was my first direct-to-client project, so there's no agency involved.
Yeah.
It's, usually when there's an agency or studio involved, you get given the creative already. It's like they've already figured out what it looks like. They just want you to make it move, which is great. I love doing that because you can just get into making it move well.
Yeah. But
being able to just give a script and they're like, can you come up with some ideas? That's really awesome. That's awesome as well because you get to build, you get to sort of, what would you call it? Add more depth to your sort of offering.
Yeah, I like the subtle differences in the characters. One has like a triangular head and a square head.
Well, it's that was a big thing. That was one of the solutions that I came up with for them is that the New Zealand School Boards essentially they help ordinary people become school board members and sort of help them interface with government. That's really their role. So their audience wasn't any particular thing. It could be any adult of any culture or ethnicity. So, and then I was talking to them in the meeting. I was like, well, I don't really think we should show like a token Asian person or a token brown person or a token this or a token that. And so the whole way that character design works is that the diversity is told through colour and shape. So instead of being Asian or a Pākehā or whatever, it's a orange person with a rectangle head or a red person with a round head. That's also it let me build one big rig that's got all these different options in it. Yeah. So that you can swap the animation from one character to another to speed up the production.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I liked how the hands sort of reached down from the sky. It reminds me a lot of Pixar's movie Soul with that sort of other dimension.
Haven't watched that one yet.
Haven't you? No. So it's clearly not inspired by that. But there's this. They've got sort of these 3D characters, and then there's this otherworldly dimension in which all of a sudden these people are 2D, and one of the comic relief characters, Terry, is played by a New Zealand actress, Rachel House, I think her name is.
Oh, yes, love Rachel House.
Yeah, she's very cool, and they're just stylistically very different from the rest of the film, and they've got these long-reaching arms, and they're very stylized, and it really reminded me of that.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very cool looking.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
And just another piece for New Zealand School Boards that just got published about a week or two ago.
Oh, yeah?
It's the school board elections are coming up, so they're trying to encourage more parents and caregivers to become school board members. Yeah. So that was really great to have that, a direct-to-client piece. First ever experience doing that. Yeah. It went really well, and they came back a year later and said, can we do another one?
Nice. So, that's very cool.
And they've already said they're looking forward to next year. So
yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
So really happy with them. They're a great client.
And what are some of the most challenging projects that come through the door?
I guess the ones that don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, of course.
Luckily, that a lot of the people I tend to work with, they're all people who've been in the industry for long enough, or we either know each other quite well from studio days, or I know that they've been involved in the industry long enough that when I talk to them, you can tell that everyone's already talking the same language, and everyone, if I say, that might take a bit longer, they understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's really the ones where the client comes to you and says, we know this doesn't have much time. How can we solve this problem? And, how can we make something, we've only got 2 days or something like that. Yeah. Like a great example of this is a client in Sydney, Common Ventures, came to me and they were straight up. They're like, we don't have a lot of money on this one. We don't have a lot of time. We're designing it now, so we're getting you in so that we can make it all fit together well. Yeah. And we came up with an idea that was really focused on just big block colours moving around and just keeping the movement going, but in a simple way with big chunky text. Mm-hmm. And that enabled me to animate 2 minutes in 2 days. Yeah, so there was that. So that was a kind of a tricky one to solve, but it was because they brought me in early. Yeah. Before they'd figured out.
What were you animating in?
That was all After Effects based. Oh, yeah. It was just very there were characters, but they didn't really do anything. They just kind of snapped on screen in a frozen pose and then snapped off again. Yeah. It was all about pace.
And do you have a particular approach that you use to dealing with challenging projects? Or just case by case?
It's case by case, yeah. Because it's the classic thing, like someone will come to you and say, how much for a bit of animation? And it's like, well, what do you want to do? And then what do you want to do is always sort of can be broken down to, okay, that's your vision. These are the realities of your project, your time limit or your budget limit.
Yeah.
Here's ways we can get that in ways that you probably weren't thinking about. So that's probably, I find a lot of what I do, especially on the challenging projects. It's not so much finding a unique solution for that one project. It's looking at what they're, sort of listening to them long enough to understand not necessarily what they're saying they want it to be, but what the actual creative intent is. And then sort of going, okay, well, that idea is really cool, but we probably don't have enough time or money for that. How about we try it this way? It'll still get you to where you want to be creatively, but in a much more efficient way.
Yeah.
So.
And when you come to the end of a project, do you have any sort of checklist that you go through before you send it off to the client, or are you you've watched it so many times you know it's ready?
No, it's actually the opposite way. You watch it so many times you start missing things.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a lot of, I find sort of between that last whip and delivery, there's a lot of renders. I'll render it and I'll watch it and I'll be like, little tiny mistake. Re-render it again. So there can be like, maybe, especially as a remote freelancer, I tend to give my clients a whip every day because it's that building trust. The more I talk to them, the less they ask me questions. So that might be a daily whip for a client during production. Yeah. But right in that last phase, it might be 10 whips in an afternoon because I'll see a little tiny error each time. So it's just kind of progressively touching things up. Yeah. Yeah, those final checks are hard when there's no team to help you out with. In my first episode, the cogwheels, I have a little animated piece in the title sequence where the cogwheels fit together and they turn. And I replaced that cogwheel with something that was higher res, and it must have been a slightly different size. So those cogwheels in that first episode do not connect together, and it pains me, but I can't change it now. So that's episode 1. I fixed it in all the other episodes, but if you want to go back and have a laugh at my expense, those final checks are really important. And that was something I was noticing when I was doing that little logo animation for you. I was wanting to make different size cogs and making them, and I was just like, this is not going to work, because as soon as you made them rotate, one would overlap and it spoils the illusion and it's gone.
Oh it's painful. But it's great logo and great animation that you did for you. I haven't got it out online yet, but I will. So, client feedback. You did a post on LinkedIn the other day about some positive client feedback that you had. How important is positive client feedback to get?
I wouldn't say positive, constructive feedback.
Constructive,
is what's important. Because I've learned over the years, it's this weird thing where when I was a junior, I used to get quite frustrated with feedback because I'd think it was personal. Yeah. And it's that whole thing of, because creating things, it actually requires a fair amount of your ego to be put into it to create. Yeah. Because you're putting your ideas out. Yeah. And you know they're going to be judged. And then one day I realised that producer who was giving me a hard time and making me change things I thought were unnecessary, they weren't doing it to make my life miserable. They weren't doing it to be mean. They were doing it because they had someone above them. Yeah. Who was on their shoulder going, no, you need to do this. And then I realised it's not personal. It's just feedback. Everyone's just trying to get to the end the best way possible. Yeah. Constructive feedback is what I value. I think it's really important. Someone being able to say, that was great for these reasons, but also someone being able to say, I'm not so comfortable with this for this reason. Yeah. If they can explain why, that's great, because that can lead you to then find the solutions to fix it. Yeah. Yeah. And how did you manage to put that ego aside in those early days? Just from being smacked in the face often enough. No, it was just through just being learning. Just being forced to, really. Yeah. It took me a long time, and then one day, maybe about 5-6 years in, I kind of went, it's not actually about me at all. Yeah. It's just the process. It's just the business. Yeah. And then do you ever look back at old projects and sort of be like, that was a missed opportunity. I could have done this or that if I had thought of it. But, yeah. Every single one. Yeah? Every single one. There's always something you could make better. I've always done that, even as an artist, like just for my own drawing. I'll always do drawings and look back at them later. Also, over time, your skills develop. You get exposed to new ideas, or you might have been up against it on that project, trying to answer some issue.
Yeah.
You put a fix in place that works, but it's the first time you've tried to answer that. So your first solution isn't necessarily that great or that educated. But 2 years down the track, you've done that same thing 4 or 5 times, and so your answers are much more creative and much, the animation's better, or it's just looks better, or there's some aspect that you hadn't thought of the first time. So I think it's just a natural progression of skill, the growth, that you'll always look back at what you've done in the past, and you'll always find ways it could have been better.
Yeah. And what are the most common jobs that come in for you? Like, what are your bread and butter jobs?
It's mostly short form advertising, a lot of social media based stuff, but nearly always with a character in it. Like I was saying, traditionally trained character animator, so a lot of the stuff I do naturally has characters in it. It's what I really enjoy doing. Even if they're not characters, I like moving, even if it's just a couple of squares on screen, I like moving them as if they've got a personality.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bit of character meets motion graphics, I think, would be a lot of the stuff I'd do.
Yeah.
But also in saying that, I've done a lot of series work, so, that's something I want to do more of. But again, it's a different way of working. So
yeah. And then you're talking about giving characters personality and things. I mean, you take something like Disney Aladdin's carpet, who doesn't have eyes and doesn't have a face, and he still makes you feel things, like his movements are very emotive. You can empathize with that carpet. And traditionally Disney, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to make people do an animation test making a bag of flour, walk around the room and stuff like that. So I mean, how do you, in your opinion, how do you make people feel emotions from inanimate objects, or how do you give a character meaning and feeling?
That's
without eyes. If it's Puss in Boots, you got those big old eyes, but without that,
a lot of it's the posing and the energy of it, like how quickly you move into a pose, and whether that pose is highly exaggerated with lots of set, or like how it stops moving is as important as how it starts moving. I guess. It's a tricky one. How you do it with things that don't actually have faces, it is really about. Also, it's about what those shapes are to start with as well. Like a big thing in character design is the language of shapes. Where you'll find it, if you break a character down into its base geometric forms, a strong character will tend to be a squarish. It'll be very square. A friendly character will tend to be round. An aggressive or assertive character will tend to be triangles.
Yeah.
So that basis is a great way to start if it's just shapes.
Yeah.
You can look at the shapes and go, okay, well, this is a square. It's going to be authoritative, or it's going to be strong. So it's going to move with those kind of emotions in mind.
Visual language.
Yeah. A really good example of that is Raymond McGrath's Puzzling. Where it was all children's blocks, but the way they moved was directly linked to their shape. So that was how the personality was portrayed, is through that combination of what the shapes mean for a character, and then how those shapes move to suit that character.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, that's interesting. And what jobs do you find most fun?
What I find most fun is, and it's a weird inverse thing, is that character stuff is where I get the most fun. Actually having a character that you've got a long enough time on screen that you can have not just a single gag, but you can have a build up to a gag, and there's a bit of an emotional reason for why the character reacts a certain way. That's part of why I like doing long form series work, is that in a TVC, you don't have the time to really explore a character's, emotional development. But in a series, you can get more little subtle jokes, and you can get longer build-ups to things. But also in terms of design, where I have the most fun is where someone gives me, or I'm allowed to create, a design that's either really abstracted or really simple. On paper, as a still, they don't look very exciting. But when you start to move them around, because you don't have all these little details getting in the way, you can really quickly like push the face into different places and get a lot of unique sort of expressions and emotion out of that very quickly, because you're not worrying about, if I move the face, there's this little line which goes from the eyebrow to the ear, and if I move it, that line looks weird. If those details aren't there, you can just smash the face around and do really interesting stuff with it.
Yeah. And do you have one project in particular that has been your favourite?
It's the one I'm working on now.
Yeah.
It's Big Little Blue, which was going to be called Bigsies and Littles when it gets released. That's just a feature of what shows are out there at the moment. So it started life as Big Little Blue, Raymond McGrath's show. It's been really great because, worked with Ray for years. Kevin and Alyssa are back on it as well. So it's been kind of like getting the team back together a little bit.
Yeah.
But also it's one of the reasons I've liked, it's a great aesthetically, it's got a really nice picture book sort of vibe. And it's quite nice in that, a lot of kids stuff, it's either really overly corny or overly slapstick, and this is not. It's really just about these two friends and their relationship and the fun they have on the beach. But everything's quite, it's not like, it's a bit more relaxed than that. Yeah. So that's been great, but also it's been great in that I've been able to lead the Toon Boom technical side of it. So that meant before we even started animating, I did 2 months of just R&D on new rigging techniques. So that's been really good, and that time has completely changed how I rig characters now in Toon Boom. So it's been really good for that aspect as well.
Oh, cool. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos there's this channel, Motion Plus Design, and they do a lot of interviews with motion designers of different kinds. And there's this guy that I watched the other day, which was funny, Tobias Gremler. He's a German guy, and
rings a bell.
He does this really abstract sort of art, and I kind of assume it's in 3D, but one of the questions that he got asked is, what tools do you use? And he's like, I don't like to answer that question because it's all about the craft and the creativity. It's not about the tools. But I'm kind of like, as an interviewer, that's a really shit answer because because especially when you're young and you're watching these sorts of interviews, you want to know. You want to know what tools they're using. You want to know how to emulate them so you can build on that and create your own style from it and that sort of thing. And you want to learn, and you can't learn if people are just holding things close to their chest. So I thought that was really interesting, a really interesting answer. But Fraser, what tools do you use? If you're willing to tell me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have no problem with that. For starters, pencil and paper.
Yeah.
That's what I trained on. So now all of my planning, all of my initial ideas, and my daily just to-do lists and note-taking, it's all paper-based. Yeah. People will go, have you used this Trello board or whatever? So I just can't be bothered. A little pad, scribble things down, cross them off when I'm done. Or just even like... if I know I'm going to do a storyboard for a project the next day, being able to sit on the couch in the lounge in the evening and just scribble things on a pad. It's a much quicker, fluider way to get ideas out. That's what I find for that. So to get ideas out and to just kind of get rolling, pencil and paper all the time. But in terms of digital tools, it's pretty much the usuals: Illustrator, Photoshop, but Toon Boom and After Effects is really where I do most of my work. Yeah. I do all of my motion and compositing and cameras in After Effects, and I do all of my character work in Toon Boom. I get a lot of people who want me to do it in After Effects, and I refuse.
Why's that?
I find it an incredibly clunky, cumbersome way to animate characters. Great for motion and great for compositing. Yeah,
it's not made for character animation.
No, it's not at all. And yes, you can do it. And yes, there are plugins that allow you to do it. But even then, even stuff like in Toon Boom, you can select the whole character and click one button and it keyframes everything. Where in After Effects, you've got to open layers and toggle things and fiddle around it.
And what about Rive? Are you using Rive at all?
I've looked at it. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I looked at it because you brought it up with me, and it looks awesome.
And I've seen some amazing stuff done in it, stuff I'm like, wow, I should look at that.
Yeah. Are you finding that you are often having to do a lot of research and R&D with new tools, or do you sort of just fall back on what is tried and true?
Bit of both. Yeah. A lot of that's project based. If the project's like, we just need to get it done. It's like, okay, I'm going to do what I know how to do, and I'm going to do it for you quickly and efficiently, and with a good, with a good creative outcome. If there's a bit of time, like with Big Little Blue, there was time to look into new methods and new tools.
Yeah.
But also in saying that, I always make sure I devote a bit of time. I try to do it every day. Maybe it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But into just learning new tools that look promising.
Yeah.
Like I've recently been spending a lot of time getting into Moho, because it's a very much similar to Toon Boom in that it's designed for character animation, but it's a different way of working. But also the brush sets are much more painterly, so there's you'll get a different outlook on it. I mean, it's a different result with a different look to it. So, and what I found in doing that is that it can be very good for quick, when you just need a quick rig.
Yeah.
You don't need to do a whole 360 turnaround or have all these complicated features that you might do in Toon Boom, because it's really good for that. In Moho, you can take a PSD, chuck some bones on it, and get animating really fast. So it's good for that kind of usage as well.
Yeah. And I was also watching a video the other day, and the guy introduced himself as Andrew Kramer, and it's like straight back into my memory. I was like, where do I know that name? Ooh. It's like Video Copilot tutorials. I spent all of university watching like Video Copilot tutorials when I was trying to make like cool lens flares and like lightning strikes and things like that. And so I did wonder, when you've been doing this a long time, do you still have to go back and do tutorials every now and again, or are you?
Yep. I've even got a book with like the Animator Survival Kit. With all the walk cycle charts.
Yeah, of course.
The number of times I was like, how do you do a walk cycle again? Like that, yeah. No, all the time. Even things like remembering how to do a simple expression in After Effects. Quite often it's like I've got to go and find a tutorial and go, how do you actually put the syntax in for that to work? Yeah. Oh,
so that's good to know. Time. Yeah, that it's a lifelong sort of learning experience.
You never stop learning. And also there's so much you need to pick up that you can never really retain it all. Yeah. Unless it's something you do every day, chances are you're going to forget it. Yeah. So you've always got to kind of go, I know that I've got to press a button, it's that one. Yeah.
And are you using any AI tools?
I'm dabbling, partly because I feel I need to.
Yeah.
I've seen some good stuff, but then also there is that whole, it still struggles with that uncanny valley aspect.
Yes.
And it is that thing of like, it can do amazing stuff, but can it bridge that last gap?
Yeah.
Of, that looks great, but we need it to be exactly this, or we need to change this one particular aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's that jump from it looking great and everyone going, wow, that's amazing, to it being applicable in a large production pipeline is it's a small gap, but it is a big gap to breach. Yeah. Or to bridge, sorry.
There's a motion designer guru online, Caleb Ward, who in one of his interviews called AI your drunk assistant, or your hungover assistant or something, where it's really creative AI, but it just can't do things well enough.
Yeah. I saw a great quote, I think it was yesterday, where someone was describing it as the most talented, awesome junior staff member you've ever had. Yeah, they will pump out work that's amazing, but it will never quite be on brief, and there'll always be a bit of a problem, and they don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's not going to go away, and we sort of need to figure out how we're going to either manage it without it, or manage it and work it into some part of our. I don't know where it would fit into my pipeline at the moment. I mean, a lot of its usage would be in like ideation, like just coming up with varieties of ideas, or storyboarding and all these kind of things. But with a lot of my agency clients, they've already done that aspect. So where it comes into animation, I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, well, because we make a lot of what we do in my role in ArcViz is we create still renders, and we had a client come to us the other day who was like, is it okay if we do this to your renders? And they had, still to motion, created animation from these stills, and I had to go back to them and list about 30 things that were wrong with that, like it doesn't say, your property development name is no longer your property development name on the fence, and, this child is being walked to school by a chair, and like really weird things like this grass growing through the road, this runner disappears halfway through the shot, and it's like, but we have to compete with that free service because their real estate agent had done that for them. So, and it's sort of like, we can do this, but we do need to charge for it. But, we can't charge as much as a normal animation, but we have to be able to offer something to do it better. So you're having to, think on your feet and make sure that you can offer these services, but you're competing with free. It's crap, but it's free. So, and clients sometimes think that's good enough because it's free. Yeah. So it's really hard.
Yeah, I think especially where it comes to the entertainment and sort of not so much like kind of architectural visualization, but in terms of consumer media, I think we're kind of in this point where, because there's sort of the aspect to the whole AI thing where it's actually a lot of it, and it's an aspect we don't talk about. We talk about what it can do. We very seldom do talk about who's actually pushing it and whose money is behind it.
Yeah.
And so there's this big thing where there's an element of it where it's actually people who aren't in the creative industry trying to move in and basically take it over.
Yeah.
With their tools. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a system where if they succeed in that, we're going to be beholden to their systems.
Yeah.
Which isn't a great situation because then they can charge more for it, they can make it worse, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But there's also a thing, I think, where we're in this state where the people who are suggesting it in terms of, I'd like to use AI because it'll help me get this thing done quicker or it'll help me spend less money, that all they're seeing is this promise of more for less. And what happens is, I'm already seeing it now, where people are posting job listings they get where they've asked them to come in to fix a whole bunch of AI stuff. And couple that with, there's already the rise of the dead internet theory, which is essentially the theory that there's so many bots on the internet that most of it's just bots arguing with bots.
Yeah.
And I think we're already seeing a situation where a lot of people, not just creators like me, but audiences are going, I don't want to be like that, a robot made it. I don't want to see that. I want to see something that a person made.
Yeah.
And I think we're sort of at this point where the people who are wanting more for less for quicker, more and quicker for less, are sort of starting to meet that the sort of audience reaction of like, but I want a person to have done it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope people keep caring about it enough to want real people behind it.
Yeah, I've already seen things where they've done studies and their audiences are starting to get tired because it all looks the same. There's nothing new. It's like the whole reaction to a lot of big studio movies these days, which is like, whatever.
Like how many Spider-Man films before. Can we consume? Yeah. So can you talk me through your workflow from start to finish on a standard project?
Okay, so standard project. Normally it'll be getting the brief, client, just doing the discussion of when do you need it, how much you want to pay for it, all that kind of stuff, get that out of the way. Then it's usually receive the brief, and from there, depending on how much work they've done, it'll be a case of quite often it's going straight into animatics or storyboarding, and then just getting everything sort of laid out and plotted out in a rough form where it's really easy to change on the fly. That's kind of really the first stage, is getting it to a point where there's something to watch, but no one's investing any great sort of time and effort into it. And then from there, I tend to do there's always character rigging and other sort of pre-prod, but I tend to do a process where I try and just lay in something for every shot. And I just try and work through from start to finish. And I'm not worrying about getting everything perfect. I'm just worried about getting it so that there's at least something there. So that if the worst happened and the client was like, we've got to get it out a week early, at least I've got something somewhere for everything. Yeah. Then it's coming back through in progressive passes and just adding more and more into it. To start with, the very first start of especially with character animation is a blocking stage where you just do poses. And you just have everything. So it's kind of like taking the animatic and converting it to a colour form, which has got all the assets in it and it's got all the renders in it, but there's not a lot of movement. It's just to sort of see the drawings come to life in colour form and get the characters moving in the right spot in the right place. Then it's just adding the animation layer by layer by layer. And the final bit is, putting little extra polishes on, little blinks and things like that. Quite often at things like, I know a lot of animators, they'll do everything on a character from as they go through a shot, I tend to do the broad poses. I don't worry about face or dialogue or anything like that. I'm just getting the character in the right positions. Once I've got that working, I'll go through, okay, time to focus on hands. I'll make all the hands right. Then another pass to get the face right. Then another pass to get the eye blinks and the dialogue right. So it's kind of like the best way I've heard it described to me when I was junior was when you're a sculptor and you're carving, you don't carve all the detail first. You come through and you take away the most big chunks, you kind of get the basic form, and then you refine and refine and refine until the very details like little wisps of hair, you're doing that right at the very end. It's that same kind of consideration.
Yeah. Yes. I actually saw Michelangelo's David, and then you see some of the ones that he'd done that aren't finished yet, and they're really
crude.
There's no detail yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And for project management, what are you using?
Pencil and paper.
No, you told me that you're using Notion.
Oh, yes,
right?
no, you do use Notion. Yes, sorry. But I don't use it for project management. That's my, that's just all my databases and client networks and all that kind of stuff.
Right, CRM and stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, project management, it's all just, I'll tend to, thankfully I generally only have one job on the go at the time. Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap. Mm-hmm. So usually I have a notebook, and it's one notebook per project. Yeah. And just everything that needs to happen gets written down. If I have a client meeting, the name, the date, what we talked about.
That would be a really interesting collection of notebooks. Yeah.
They tend to get trashed.
Do you have a library? Oh, you trash them.
Well, because as you go through and you get things done, you scribble them out.
Right.
So then at the end you throw it away. Or like my day planner is just a little spiral notebook. And at the end of each day I just rip the page off and throw it away because I'm done. Yeah.
Interesting. And you know how they say the customer is always right.
In matters of taste.
When it comes to clients, because you don't have any buffer between you and that client, there's no producer or account manager or anyone to filter that feedback. How do you deal with it when the customer is not always right? When the client's not right.
There's been very seldom. I can't even remember a time when the client's been wrong and I've been forced to do it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's a case of they come to you with a problem. They're like, I want it to be this X, Y, Z. And instead of just going, okay, I'll do it, even though it's wrong, it's a case of going, there are reasons why this isn't a good idea. Here's 3 possible solutions that will fix your problem.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the way you wanted, maybe not in the way you asked for, but it's fixing the problem you've got.
Yeah.
But part of that is also, it's a bit of a tricky job. The actual problem or the actual reason that they're kind of in your ear could be as simple as 2 or 3 words in what they're saying. But because we're social creatures and we kind of have conversations, they'll tend to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. So you've got to really listen and quite often with an email, you've got to read it maybe 3 or 4 times to go, that's the actual problem there. All of those other words don't matter. It's that. And then finding an answer for that. Quite often I can talk someone to accept my answers as long as and also part of that is not just dictating back to them, this is what should happen.
Yeah.
It's sort of saying, here's what you're telling me is your problem. Here's some of the issues with what you're thinking about as a way to fix it. Here's 3 ways to fix it that will work. This is what those ideas mean. Which one do you want? Yeah. So it's giving the option, it's giving the control back to them, but in a way where you've steered where those results will be.
And is it always having to be on a call? Because you can explain things a lot better on a call.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Always, if you can't solve it in one email, and you can tell if it's just backwards and forwards and you're just chatting, that's fine. But if it's like, no, they're not getting it, or this isn't getting fixed, getting on the phone or a Zoom call is just the best answer.
Yeah, because there's a lot of reluctance, I think, to make phone calls and things these days. People are too busy, and also, the younger generations are reluctant to talk to people on the phone. It's not their thing. So.
Well, it's also a thing where if it's done by email, you've got time to think and you've got time to ponder, and you don't have to reply straight away. And so I think a phone call or a Zoom call, that's
quicker.
It's quicker, but it puts a little bit of pressure on you. But it also means you can have a quicker conversation, and you can see or hear someone's reaction to something you're saying.
Yeah.
In text, there's no tone.
Yes. So you don't want to misinterpret anything. Yeah. And so what does your home setup look like?
So luckily we have a big house. So I have a front room, which is spare room, library, and my studio. Alana has another room, which is kind of like the kitchen, scullery, and another spare room, and her office. And in my room is also kind of where we're chronic collectors. Whenever we go to find something, one of us will go, "That's really cool," and the other one goes, "Where's it going to go?" So the back wall of my room is half of it's books from one side of the room to the other. Books, stacked up, running out of bookshelves, and big piles of books on the floor now because where are they going to go? But also there's a lot of weird crap on the back wall. So every now and again people will get on a Zoom call with me and they're like, "They're doing this." Okay, what's...
Yeah.
There's like old bits of taxidermy and all sorts of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, things that inspire and
But I kind of like that. You'll hear a lot of people talking about how your workspace should be very, everything should be decluttered. And I try and keep my desk decluttered.
Yeah.
But I've always been a maximalist. I like being surrounded by lots of things. So.
Yeah. Why not?
As long as it's not
like
hoarding.
Things. Yeah. And then what about your actual work setup? Does it have to cost a lot to be a freelancer?
It doesn't have to cost a lot. Especially for digital video and imagery sort of stuff. Like when I first bought my first computer, I just went to one of those sort of bog standard computer shops, and I just bought a gaming rig because it's got a reasonably good fast graphics card, decent amount of memory. That's enough to get going. You don't need to do anything more than that, and that was only a couple of grand. These days I've got a much more custom built computer where I went back to the same people and was like, I want this, I want all this storage, I want all this RAM, blah, 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 blah. So now my computer is maybe about 4 or 5 times what I spent on my original one. Yeah. But I've still got the first one as a backup. It's still fine. Nothing's wrong with it. Yeah. And also running a Cintiq pen display with a second monitor. That's been a huge game changer, I think, as well.
And then all of the software that you use is all subscription based these days, isn't it?
Yeah. Apart from Moho.
Can't get cracked versions of anything.
No. But also I've realised that I look at my business plan, my overheads to run my business, even though I've still got to pay for Adobe CC Suite, and I've still got to pay for Toon Boom every year, it's still really small. So it's, for me, I know it's not the same for everyone, but for me it's not a huge outlay each year. Yeah. So it's not that big a deal. And
then accounting for a freelancer.
Yep.
What do we need to know?
The first question I think you'd want to ask yourself is, how involved do I want to be with tax? Does doing a lot of maths and making sure all my sums are right and putting things into spreadsheets, does that make my brain hurt? And for me it does. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I know people who do their own tax for freelancers. They just have an Excel sheet that they tally up at the end of the year. They do all the work and they just give it to their accountant just to kind of go tick. That's great. For me, that's too much work. I just can't be bothered. Yeah. I'm on that Henry platform, HNRY, which is really good for me. It works really well.
And great ads.
Yeah, great. I like it in that I just don't have to fuss around and do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Everything. But the flip side of that is you can never really go and talk to someone because they're a big company. You can only do everything via email and chat. Yeah. So if you have a problem, it takes a little bit longer to get it resolved.
Interesting.
So there's always a pro and con to everything.
Yeah. And so way back when I went to art school, straight out of school, and I went to art school with the hope of making things look cool. That was my goal. However, I felt that at art school, people were pressuring me, the lecturers were pressuring me to find deep meaning behind the art that I was creating. And so I left after 2 years because I was like, I don't want to find deep meaning. I just want to make things look cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in animation, people talk a lot about storytelling and the importance of storytelling, and I understand that. It is important. But is there ever a point where, as a motion designer or an animator, you can just make things look cool? And is it bad to just want to make things look cool?
No, I don't think it's bad to make things want to look cool. This is kind of a familiar story because when I left high school, I did art. Basically, I was at high school. I was one of those kids that did art so much that my other teachers just let me slide and everything else because it was like, he's an art kid. So when I left school and I was going to go to university, I actually got an interview to go to Elam. And I was like, yeah, fine art, making it. And the first thing they did is they want me to explain everything. I was just like, it's a picture. It's either cool or it's not.
Yeah,
and
that's what I thought.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I ended up kind of not doing anything for some time and ended up a few years later doing the animation course. And that was where I was kind of exposed to, we're doing things to make them look cool. You know?
Yeah.
At that stage, that's sort of, well, you're not really focused on the higher concepts of storytelling and character arcs. And you're just doing cool drawings. But yeah, no, I think there's nothing wrong with making things look cool for the sake of just looking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've sort of landed in a place with ArcViz where a lot of it, there's a little bit of storytelling that you need in terms of like, you know, if it's a render in New Zealand, you've got to have New Zealand number plates on the car. And if you've got two people standing in the render, they should be facing each other and talking to each other, not like, you know, there's a little bit of storytelling. But essentially we're making things look cool. So, I mean, it is possible.
Yeah. I'd also add that there's more than one way to tell a story.
Yeah.
You know, we're very locked into... And it's because of, you know, we get exposed to so many linear story formats, which is very common. And so those come with especially when it comes to TV and movies, there's very much a formula for how that story arc travels and how the character development happens. And they've got to have a moment of doubt and a moment of realisation and all these sort of things. And you don't have to follow those things to tell a good story. You can tell a really good story really short, in a really short way. That's... sort of, we leave a lot of things unsaid, but you say enough for people to kind of go, oh, that's talking about that, or, you know. Yeah,
yeah. You could also just make people feel things without a story behind it, you know? Yeah. Like, even, you know, fine art, it can be, you know, emotive without having a deep meaning. You don't need to write an A4 blurb about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just sit there and you can just look at it and feel it and love it.
Well, and a great example of that is we really got into the Andor series recently. And there's this bit where two of the characters are having dinner with one of their mother, and they're, you know, it's going badly, but you're watching it and you're like, man, there's this whole unspoken other story that's happening, but it's all being referenced and talked about in this dinner situation.
Yeah.
And it could be its show in its own right, these three characters, and I quite like that aspect where there's a hint of something. They don't have to go all the way into it, but you can kind of read into it and go, there's a lot more that could be talked about in that environment.
It doesn't need to be explained. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And one of the things that, Fraser, that I really was excited to talk to you today about was the Motion Designers Guild of Aotearoa.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that and what your involvement is.
Okay, so, well, good bit of history. It started off as just a bunch of freelancers and people in employment roles, just having a Slack group to just, you know, social space online. You know, more, you know, a few more people joined it. It still has that aspect of it. It's very much a social sort of thing. People would post up jobs, you know, I've been offered this job, I can't do it. Does anyone want me to put their name forward? This kind of stuff. And then with the advent of the Screen Industry Workers Act, which still hasn't passed, or I don't know exactly what's going on there, it sort of got to the point where we realised that we needed to become an official society, an official, incorporated society, to be able to have a seat at the table. Because without that, we're just a bunch of people. You know? So that's kind of been a big driver of us going from just a loose collection of individuals to a proper body with a president and a treasurer and all these kinds of secretary, all these sort of roles. And I guess a lot of what we do now, in that the CEWA Act kind of has sort of stalled, so that really hasn't gone much further with the change in government, for obvious reasons. So a lot of the stuff we do now is really about building the freelance sort of creative network in New Zealand and Aotearoa into a more connected and productive group of people. Instead of just a bunch of individuals who might have passing conversations, we're now a group of people who have some sort of relationship with each other. We know each other. We know we can kind of call on other people. But also another aspect of that is that we're trying to get a lot of students involved as well, like from UB and MDS and all these other places. That there's been a shift in the industry over the last few years, and that got really amplified by COVID, where bigger studios over the time have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. There are much more smaller teams. There are much more spread out teams, people working remote or in a hybrid situation. And so a lot of those opportunities as a junior to get a job and to learn from being around experienced people aren't there in the same way anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it was already hard to get a job to start with. Now it's even harder. It's really hard to get a permanent job. It's hard to get a foot in the door. And if you're a junior, you don't have any experience. If you're straight out of tech, you don't have content to back you up. So why would someone hire you when there's a whole bunch of other people who already have experience in content?
Yeah, it's hard.
So a lot of what we try and do is to try and bridge that gap for students going into the workplace to kind of at least know there's people who've been there before them.
Yeah. And
can talk to them and they can ask questions of, or people can help them out with suggestions. And
so
part of that is we have a dedicated board member on the board who is a student.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really
That's
cool.
part of our constitutional requirement.
Good experience for them as well.
Yeah. And also part of it is, I'm getting older, so part of it is I feel like I should be trying to mentor and do consulting and all these kinds of things, not as a way to make money, but just as a way to keep the industry going, because, it's unless we bring new people in and get them up to speed and get them skilled, we'll run out of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit the same with the podcast. It's just sharing lessons learned and, helping keep the creative industry alive.
Yeah, I mean, looking back to what I knew when I started compared to now, it's wildly different.
Yeah.
And not just in craft, but also in how to deal with people, how the industry works, how to deal with deadlines and all these sorts of other pressures.
Yeah, that mentorship in the very beginning of your career is so important. So it's a bit scary that a lot of people, because people advocate for remote work so much, but, when you're a bit older, remote work's great. But when you're young, I can't imagine having started out in my first industry job not having all of those people around me, supporting me and showing me how to do things and building my confidence. If I was just sitting at home by myself watching, video Copilot tutorials,
you don't know what to do.
That would have been really hard.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even now, like I've been at this well over 20 years. Stop counting. But even now, I'll have days at home where I'll stop and go, I don't know what to do about this. And I will have a little freak out because it's like I should know the answer because I'm an experienced professional, but I don't know the answer. And trying to deal with that by yourself at home when you don't have any experience would be really hard, almost impossible.
Yeah, so it's great that you're creating this community.
Yeah, we're trying. We're small. We're still very young. Another part of what's really good for the guild is that it enables us to then form connections with the other guilds, like the Soundies Guild and the Visual Effects Guild. So that sort of it builds another network of people who are in slightly different complementary industries and in similar working environments who are all dealing with the same problems that we are.
So, I mean, volunteering, I do a bit of volunteering myself, and I'm volunteering on a board as well. It's actually quite time consuming. There's a lot more work, I think, that goes into it than often people think.
Yes.
So you do have to really want to do it. And so what does sort of giving back to the community mean to you?
I guess it's sort of been there, I guess. It's creating opportunities for the community to be involved. And because without someone, a good example of that is the events that the board puts on. If those weren't being put on, it would fall to someone else.
Yeah.
And is that person even going to do it?
Yeah.
Or does that person even exist? So I think that a lot of what the giving back is really about, especially for the Motion Designers Guild, a lot of it's really about network building and people helping people who might feel that they are by themselves realise that there are other people who are in the exact same boat as them, or who have been in that boat before, and that they're friendly, they're nice, they will help you.
Oh,
but
nice.
if we don't do the events and we don't try and get people out together in a group, that doesn't happen as much.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really what the giving back is about for us. It's about making opportunities for people to connect with each other and realise that they're not stranded, they're not stuck by themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. And going back, what was the CEWA Act that you were talking about?
The Screen Industry Workers Act.
Right.
I think, I could be getting some of the details wrong. I think a lot of it arose out of the stuff with the, when there was that Hobbit law thing. It was all about
the controversy.
It was all about who's a contractor and who's an employee.
Yeah.
That was what drove that. And I think what that led to was the Screen Industry Workers Act, where they were trying to more formalise like ideas like if you're a freelancer, you should have a contract.
Yeah.
You know, and what constitutes a day? If you're on a day rate, is a day 8 hours or is it 12 hours?
Yeah.
What's the industry standard? What are the industry standard pay rates? All these kinds of things, they were never really put down anywhere as this is what's the standard is expected of people.
Yeah. Is that why on the website for the Motion Designers Guild you've got a survey that you can fill in and then you've got a salary page and rates and things?
Yep.
Yeah.
And part of it is also to help freelancers. If they're being offered a job and they're looking at the rate of pay and they can then go, is this over or under?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of times in my career where I've undersold myself because
me too.
I didn't know where to go for the information.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And it is also, it's quite good in that it's easy to get a lot of data on Australia because it's a bigger industry, there's lots more people, so there's a lot more data there. But it's close to the New Zealand industry, but it's still not the New Zealand industry. So it's really good to have data from here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Creative Store salary survey that they put out every year, but that's just one source. And it's also from a recruiter who, shaves, a certain percentage off the top. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not necessarily something that people can use if they're just freelancing. Without a recruiter involved. So, yeah, it's good. It's good that you've got that. I like that.
No, it is good. And it's, it's, how to put it, like I was saying, we're still young, we're still small, we're actively trying to grow. We'd really like to grow it outside of Auckland. It's very Auckland focused at the moment, but that's just a feature of how the group started. So it's a little tricky for me in that I don't live in Wellington. Yeah. That would be a natural place for me to put a lot of effort in, but I have to drive an hour and a half there. So we're trying over time. We're slowly getting more and more people, and we have a thing where if you're a student, you don't have to pay membership. Yeah. So to try and get people exposed and get them more involved. So we have and to help that we have a regular meetup where it's just at a pub, hang around, talk, shop, which of course is quite difficult for students to join in on because it's very much people are in the industry talking industry stuff. So and they're a lot older. But we also have events where we try and get people in the industry to come along and talk about a project.
That's cool.
So there'll be three speakers each night, talking about a project, showing how they did it, pulling it apart, and kind of letting people see under the behind the curtain a bit. Yeah, that gets a lot of student engagement, which is really good.
I can imagine. Yeah. As a student, I remember really appreciating those sorts of things, being able to actually go to studios, being able to actually meet people in the industry. It's very inspiring, and it helps you feel like you can actually do it rather than it just being a pipe dream. Also, you start to go, oh, they're just ordinary people. They're not superheroes. Because we're not. We're just Yeah, sometimes we feel like we are. But.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you go to a party and someone goes, "Oh, what do you do? What do you do?" And you go, "I'm an animator," and it's like glitter eyes, and it's like, no, it's actually laborious.
Like funny. So, I mean, you've been through a redundancy earlier in your career, correct? I have not, touch wood. I have not been through a redundancy. So what is that like?
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden, and it's an interesting thing that I've discovered from going freelance, is being an employee, it does feel secure. But part of that security is kind of an illusion. And it's an illusion that's created by regular payment. Yeah. Because you get that paycheck every week, fortnightly, a month, whatever it is, you've got some predictability to, like, when those bills come in, you're like, great, I can sort that next week. Yeah. And that's great while the business is being run well. But your ability to keep working there and to keep getting paid is reliant upon someone else managing the business properly. And if that doesn't work for whatever reason, not saying it's through to mismanagement, there can be many reasons why business goes under or has to shrink down. Yeah. You're gone. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. But as a freelancer, it's when I first started, I was quite terrified. It's like, this is quite scary. I don't know where my money's coming from. And then I just remembered being made redundant, and I was like, well, but what was different there? Nothing. It's still insecure. It's just insecure with an illusion of security.
Yeah.
Whereas freelance, you're insecure, but there's no illusion.
Yeah. I mean, all over the internet at the moment, people talk about how during COVID, animation streaming went up by 22%, and then now there's huge mass layoffs all the time because they were sort of, overhiring at that time. So what advice would you give to somebody who's feeling, who's maybe jobless and feeling a little bit lost?
Tricky one. A lot depends where you are in your career. If you're someone who has been in the industry for a little while, even a few years, has got work that they can show, or at least enough work to make a decent looking reel, has a network of people who you can talk to, who can possibly refer you to someone else, or who can say, yeah, that person can deliver on time, they can deliver to the brief. If you've got those things, there's nothing wrong with striking out on your own and trying to go freelance, as long as you treat it like a business and not a job.
Yeah.
But for a new person who's new, it's a tough one. I would be just saying, try and go for every opportunity you can, and try and see the fact that every opportunity, and this is something I have to do all the time now, even now, is every opportunity you're going to get offered in your career, or everything that might be put in front of you, there's always going to be a good reason and a bad aspect to it.
Yeah.
There's always a pro and a con. Like, if someone came to me and said, hey, there's a job at Weta, it pays really good, but your hours are going to be nuts, at this age, I'd say no. I don't want to do that. Because I'm older, because I've got a network of people, I've got a body of work behind me that I can use to try and get work in other ways.
Yeah.
If I was young and someone offered me that opportunity, I would leap at it, because you're going to be worked off your ass.
Yeah.
But you're going to be exposed to a lot of new people. You're going to form a big network of people who know you. You're going to be exposed to a lot of new ideas and a lot of new practices and a lot of new skills. And also, because you're young, your body's not going to be exhausted as much by that kind of work.
So would you say that if you're a student, that maybe freelancing is not the way to start out?
I would make a distinction between permanent employment, contract employment, and freelance. They're three very different things. Contract employment and freelance are kind of the same in that you're not working all the time for the same person. The difference in that, as a contract employee, you're not trying to run a business. That's the difference. So I wouldn't say to someone to go freelance straight away. I would say to pursue contract work, because it's that difference between, am I running a business or am I just being an employee for different people?
And the running of the business is a lot more difficult.
I was thinking about how to answer this one on the flight up here. It's being a creative is kind of like five things. There's the history, like, the history of what other people have done before you, skills, tools, networks, and what was the other one? Networks and experience. Going to a training school only gives you skills and tools, maybe a little bit of history. If you don't have the networks and the experience, it's really hard to be a successful freelancer, because you rely so much upon people going, let's give Fraser a ring.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be really hard to pay your bills.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll also add that part of what's made it really easy, not easy, but part of what has made freelancing work for me is not living in a big city. Moving away where my housing costs are way lower, all those things really made a huge difference. So if you're trying to go freelance and you're really young in your industry and you've got a mortgage, that's going to be real tough.
Yeah.
If you can try and start doing contract work and you're still maybe living at home because you're young, that's possibly a good way to go about it, because there's a bit of a fallback in case something doesn't work.
Yeah. And as a freelancer, do you ever turn down projects that you don't like?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep. I've learned the art of
saying no.
A no is also a win.
Ah, yes.
Yes, it's you should try and collect no's as a freelancer, because a no means that you're starting to be able to decipher what's a bad opportunity and what's a good one.
Right, yeah. Yep. Interesting.
And there are some clients which I've done a couple of jobs for and I've just gone, just take them off the CRM. I don't want to do that work. And it's not necessarily about them personally, it's just I don't want to do that kind of work, because then it leads into what I have to show.
Yeah.
If all I've got is stuff I don't like doing, I'm only going to get that stuff back in terms of the next project. So you want to be looking at, I'm saying yes to this project now for what reasons? The reasons is, well, money, but also it's either a good client to get connected with, or it's going to lead to something that's going to be good to show to other people to get more of that work in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that you're up in Auckland is that you're getting some tattoos done.
Yes.
And you are covered in tattoos.
Yes.
So, I mean, what role does self-expression play in your creative identity?
Oh, that's a tricky one. A lot, I guess. Yeah? It's tricky. It's weird because I've always kind of done my own thing in a little way, if you know what I mean. It is everything, you know. You got to express yourself, because it is. If you can't put your own ego into it, it's not really your ideas.
Yeah.
They come from somewhere else rather than in here. So it's self-expression is important, but at the same time, you've got to it's a paradox. You've got to balance that with the ability to let ego go and go, okay, someone else said do this and it's a better idea, or someone else do this and they're paying for it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And with the tattoos, do they tell a story or do they just look cool?
They just look cool. No, they do tell a story, but not in the way you'd think. They tell a story in that when I was young and unemployed, I thought I'd be a bit of a tattooist. And someone gave me some tattoo machines, so I practiced on myself.
Oh, wow.
And they were all really bad. So when I was about 40, I went to a very good friend of mine who's a professional in Japanese tattooing, and I just said, could you fix it, please?
Yeah.
And then we just so he fixed up all my legs, and I got to the point, it's like, there's no point stopping now.
Yeah, I see. Do you go to the same person every time?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to give them a shout out?
It's my good mate, Adam Craft, at the Tattooed Heart out in Te Aratu Peninsula.
Nice. Yeah, I even thought about tattooing when I was at art school, because there's something really amazing about the idea that it's so permanent. You know, you have to be a damn good artist to put your ink on somebody's skin and know that it's not going to change, because any other artist, you can erase it and you can change it. And
tell you what, though, if you thought being an animator was an emotionally fraught job, don't be a tattooist.
Really?
Because you're it's all those same creative like stresses and conundrums, but you're doing it on a client, and the client's right there at the time. They're not across town. They're not going to watch the render. They're watching you do it. So there's a huge trust element.
And they're in pain while you're doing it as well, so they're not in a good mood.
Yeah, and also it's quite like it's like hairdressers. A lot of their job is talking about, and quite often clients will talk to you about like their problems. So you almost become a social worker. Yeah. So and it's really bad on your back.
Oh, well, I'd never thought of that.
There's a lot of pinching in your hand, and a lot of leaning over into weird positions. Yeah. So it's quite a hard job. All old tattooists have terrible backs.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's definitely a skill. An amazing skill at that. And what about your inspiration in terms of, are there any blogs or any sort of YouTube channels or magazines or anything like that you go to for inspiration? Or?
Well, it's interesting. Like, I don't tend to follow any one specific channel over anything else. You know, there's all the usual ones, like there's Stash magazine, which has a lot of really good, like they do a sort of, I think it's a weekly best of sort of animated content.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of really good quality stuff there. All the usual things like Motionographer and Behance, where you can search through things. But usually I'm finding things as I stumble upon them, or I'm looking for something specific, so I go searching for that one thing. But also quite often for a lot of my inspiration, I try to follow things that aren't digital media, like a lot of people doing weird traditional crafts, or a lot of like cultural dance. There's quite a few accounts I follow on Instagram which are all about, they catalogue masks through different cultures, which are usually about representations of animals. Yeah. So they're a really good source for sparking character design.
Interesting.
Because you're kind of taking it back to someone who solved that problem, but in a non-digital physical way. Yeah. So I quite like using things that aren't traditional digital inspiration points.
That's interesting, because when you think of the blogs and the magazines and things, those are curated content. They're saying this is what you should find inspiration from, and we've curated that from what we think. And so going and finding alternative sources,
Yeah, and that's also where you fall into that sort of loop of falling prey to trends, because there for a while. Every single motion graphics piece had the waves that kind of went like this, like smoke from rockets or people swimming. It was always the same look.
Yeah.
And then for a while it was gradients and cubes, and then for a while it was something else. And
Yeah.
And so when you look at the sort of curated platforms for those, you get a lot of that trend. But if you're looking at a wide range of just odd places, you get a lot more random input.
Yeah. And would you say that you have a signature style?
I suppose so. Well, it's not so much. I mean, I'll character animate any style.
Yeah.
And I like doing that. I like the challenge of being given a character design that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and being able to pull it off and have the client go, that was really cool.
Because I wouldn't have said that you had a signature style that I could pick, because your stuff is all very different, and that's probably just because you're working with whatever is sort of given to you. Yeah.
I mean, I guess a lot of my style is in how I move the characters. I like the characters to be really fluid and really good expressions and good poses, good strong poses. But what I found that I enjoy the most in terms of the way I might design characters myself is simplified down characters or unusual abstracted characters.
Yeah.
Like the NZ Schools piece that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Part of what made that really fun to animate was that there was no middle body. The legs end at the hips, and there's a gap, and there's just the arms with a head floating above it. So you can, because there's nothing joining those things together, you can actually move those around and pose them in really interesting ways.
Yeah.
And that's something I find really enjoyable. So I guess that's kind of where, if I was designing everything myself, that's where it would start to lead to.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find that you have any other creative outlets, or are you so creative during the 9 to 5 that at 5 o'clock you're like, I'm done?
Yes, but I try to not be.
Yeah.
It's important to have other creative pursuits. A lot of that's sort of dictated by how busy I am. Like just been through a period where I've been doing the Big Little Blue series, and I did the second NZ Schools project at the same time. So I was doing 14-hour days to manage those two. So there was no extracurricular activity there.
Yeah.
But I still try and keep my drawing up. Like I try and get about an hour before work if I can, just sitting down, either iPad or sketchbook, and just doodling away.
Yeah.
But also I quite like being physical. If I can do something with my hands, that's much more enjoyable. Like recently I took up polymer clay monster making, just as a way to do something different.
Interesting. That's so cool. Very cool. One other question I wanted to ask is, for someone who's been in the animation industry a really long time, when there's more than one animation, can you put an S on the end of the word? Is it animations, or is it? I'm no English scholar, and the internet doesn't seem to care about it. But I've always thought there was no S on the end. It's always just animation. But I've heard people say animations more and more recently.
Interesting, yeah.
What is that?
I think it's. I don't think it's a pluralized word. If you're talking about animation as a whole, it's not like Disney puts out 5 movies and you talk about them as animations.
Yeah.
They're animation.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about, if you're doing a project that's got maybe 5 different outputs, then they might be animations.
You're calling it animations?
Maybe, but yeah.
Interesting.
Because you're talking about a specific item.
Yeah.
Rather than a body or a group.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew the answer to that for sure, but
no. But then that brings up the classic one of what is motion design and what is animation. That's a whole other argument that you see people toss backwards and forwards endlessly.
Yeah. And Fraser, lastly, what is the best part of doing what you do?
Working from home.
Yeah?
Yeah. I get to work from home. I live in a tiny little beach community. I get to hang out with my dog all day long. It's great. I love that aspect of it. But I also love that's created I mean, I didn't plan it this way, but it's created an environment for me where, because it's forced me to deal with everything, all the challenges by myself, because there's no one else, I've actually started to sort of solve a lot of those challenges. So I've experienced a lot of growth, both sort of creatively and in my own health and all sorts of things. So working from home, I love it.
Nice.
But that suits my introversion as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Fraser, thank you so much for coming in, and I really appreciate it. And for flying all the way up here.
Just a bus ride.
And and I hope the tattooing later on goes well.
It will, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.